As a trained actor, you just jump in and do the best job you can. May I say one thing? Stanley, I thought the great Stanley Kubrick was an actor's enemy. And I can name the worst roles he's played in movies. I tell a new story about the Golden Age and the events that made it what it was every day. If you want to remember these times with me, click subscribe. It's free and means a lot. Thanks for being here. Let's start now. Hollywood can't believe what Robert Duvall just said when he finally spoke out. As he looked back on his 94-year career, he admitted that there were 4 people he could never stand, not even for a minute. People often look up to Duvall as an example of discipline, skill, and honesty. He has always been Hollywood's quiet giant. His calm, no-frills personality earned him respect and admiration. But those old feelings never really went away. Duvall put on a stiff, gentlemanly front, but he was hiding memories he wanted to forget forever. Now, though, in an interview, it has shocked everyone in the movie business that the Oscar-winning legend who helped shape generations of movies has finally spoken out and said what he never dared to say before. He named the 4 stars that he could not stand. Duvall is said to have said, "I've kept my mouth shut for decades. But what am I waiting for now that I'm this old? Now is the time to be honest." His words spread like flames through the business world, not just because of what he said, but also because of who said it. Robert Duvall was the person everyone thought would die with Hollywood's secrets. After more than 50 years of silence, Duvall finally spoke out. This shows how bad these fights were. It was deep enough to follow him into his 90s. Sources close to him said that these differences were not small ones. There were fights that changed movies, acts, and even Hollywood history. Can you picture how different those famous movies would have been if there had been peace on those sets now that Duvall has spoken out? Hollywood is scared. Everyone wants to know what these 4 names are and what the truth is behind the smiles, the red carpets, and the fake friendships at award shows. But before the shocking list comes out, we need to know why Robert Duvall, who is known for keeping to himself, finally spoke out. People who knew him say it wasn't anger that drove him. It was a moment of truth that late in life people have when their legacy starts to mean more than their reputation. One longtime friend who asked to remain anonymous said he's been watching a lot of films that change the facts of history so that there is peace where there was conflict and friendship where there was rivalry. It was said that the lies he told broke him down. The last straw was during a celebration of his work, which was meant to honor how great he was. Duvall watched silently as clips from his most famous scenes played by actors he secretly disliked were shown on the big screen. While the crowd cheered, Duvall sat there angry as the narrator talked about creative relationships and respect that lasts a lifetime. After the conversation, he said, "I sat there listening to all that revisionist, as I thought about how one of those people would purposely step on my lines to mess up takes and how another tried to get me fired from what would become one of my signature roles. That was it." The legend had had enough. At 94 years old, with an Oscar, many nominations, and a name that would go down in film history, Duvall decided he had nothing left to protect. Hollywood's lies didn't matter anymore. The truth did. He reportedly told friends that he wanted the next generation of actors to see the reality behind the glamour. These young actors deserved to know the truth. He said that even the best movies don't always come from harmony. Sometimes they come from jealousy, ego, and chaos behind the camera. Then Dustin Hoffman, the first name on Duvall's list, called him a credit thief who never stopped. And that was just the beginning. They were both struggling actors in New York at the time, so they shared a small apartment and worked toward the same goal. Dustin and I were struggling actors together in New York. We were friends, or at least I thought we were, Duvall remembered. But Hoffman had a very different idea of what friendship meant to him. In the early 1960s, they bonded strongly through long nights of practicing and cheering each other on. But soon, Duvall started to notice something strange. Hoffman was using his own ideas in his auditions. "I'd worked for weeks on a certain interpretation for an audition," Duvall explained. "I'd practice it in our apartment. Then, all of a sudden, Dustin would get called for the same part, and he'd use my exact approach, sometimes word for word. When Hoffman got the part, he'd blame Duvall. Duvall shot back sharply. 'That's a fancy word for theft. Even as they rose to fame, the tension never really faded. During the making of True Grit in 1969, where Duvall played the outlaw Ned Pepper, Hoffman often called him asking for advice while preparing for Midnight Cowboy. "I spent hours on those calls helping him find Razzo Rizzo's voice," Duvall said. But when he later read an interview where Hoffman claimed he developed that iconic voice by studying homeless people in New York for months, Duvall realized his help had been erased completely. "Never once did he mention our conversations," he said with disbelief. The breaking point came in 1971 when both men were up for the lead in The French Connection. The role ultimately went to Gene Hackman, but Duvall never forgot what happened behind the scenes. "That was when I stopped taking his calls," he admitted. "I realize some people never stop taking from others. They just get better at pretending it's collaboration." Insiders later backed up Duvall's story. Sources claimed that during the casting process, Hoffman went beyond stealing ideas. He allegedly tried to sabotage Duvall's chances altogether. He reportedly told director William Friedkin that Duvall was difficult and uncooperative, using old theater stories as proof. Duvall said that this lie may have cost him a career-defining role. "I crossed a line," he said firmly, "from competition to pure sabotage." Years later, Duvall confronted Hoffman about it. "He denied it," Duvall recalled, "but I heard it directly from Friedkin himself." Despite everything, Duvall never went public, not then. He kept his composure, shared stages with Hoffman, attended events, and even gave polite compliments about his work. That mask of professionalism fooled everyone, making this revelation even more explosive. No one in Hollywood suspected that a quiet hostility had simmered between two of the most respected actors of their generation. But as shocking as the Hoffman confession was, what came next blew the roof off. Duvall named a man once thought untouchable, a legend whose talent was almost mythic. Marlon Brando, the second name, had the worst ego I had ever met. Duvall didn't hold back for a second. He said, "In Hollywood, great performances don't always come from great relationships. In spite of bad ones, they sometimes make it through. That's the truth about this business that nobody talks about," he said, dropping one bomb after another of truths. When he finally said Brando's name out loud, even people who work in the business couldn't believe it. "Marlon Brando. This is Marlon Brando. Everyone in the world says this man is one of the best artists ever." Duvall didn't say that Brando wasn't smart. He said there was no doubt that he was a genius. That being said, he had the biggest ego I've ever met in this business. It wasn't just that Marlon Brando was unreliable. For fun, he would destroy a whole show just to show how powerful he was. When he fought with Robert Duvall, the crazy set of The Chase in 1966 became the stuff of legends, a movie that not many people remember today, even though it had a star-studded cast. William Hurt, Robert Duvall, Jane Fonda, and Robert Redford. But behind the well-done movie images, Duvall was fighting a mental battle that would change the way he thought about acting, fame, and professional respect for good. Duvall told everyone that Brando had a mean habit. In order to make editing difficult, he would change how he performed on every take. Duvall said that he would ruin the coverage of other players' scenes on purpose if he didn't like the way the director was doing things. It was what Brando called protecting the integrity of the performance. Duvall called it what it was: mischief against his job. The anxiety kept rising until it all went off during a key monologue, which is one of Duvall's most important scenes in the whole movie. Since then, more team members have agreed with what he said. While Duvall was saying his lines, Brando would make sounds off-camera that were just loud enough for the mics to pick up. Take after take was messed up until Duvall lost it on the fifth one. "I talked to him after the fifth bad take," Duvall said. "What happened next taught him a hard lesson in Hollywood that he'll never forget." Brando gave him that famous smug smile and said, "Maybe you should be stronger in your choices." Duvall took a moment to remember how painful that moment was. "That was Marlon," he said. "He'd hurt you and then make it look like you were weak." That was a mean and powerful move. What's so shocking about this news is how completely it changes how people see their relationship. Duvall openly praised Brando's art for decades, calling him an inspiration, even though he was still hurting from what happened. After many years, they would be in the same movie world again with The Godfather, but they never had a scene together. I thought it was just a chance at the time. Now it seems planned. Duvall said, I learned more from watching Marlon than from anyone else. I learned more than just how to act, though. I learned how to treat coworkers badly. And I learned that being smart doesn't mean you can be mean. The fact that Duvall didn't say anything for so many years was because he respected Brando's ability, but was deeply disappointed in his ego. But Duvall dropped another name while Hollywood was still shocked by the Brando news. And this one was even more real. The third name on his list was James Caan, who was so competitive that he was mean. Insiders in Hollywood were really hurt by this one because Duvall and Caan had such great chemistry in The Godfather. Caan's fiery Sonny Corleone and Duvall's cool, smart Tom Hagen became one of the most believable brother and sister pairs ever captured on film. John Duvall said, Jimmy and I made one of the most believable brother relationships in film history. Off camera, we barely talked to each other, but we did it. That is the best performance and tension I've ever seen. Their problems began right away during the first practice. Both men were motivated to stand out in a group that was already very talented. Duvall, the quiet artist, took great care with every scene. Caan, on the other hand, loved having energy, sometimes too much of it. Duvall remembered that Jimmy was so competitive that he was mean. He tried to make everyone look bad, especially me. When Duvall was about to say something important, Caan would start doing something else to steal the show. Anything to get people's attention, like tapping his fingers, playing with props, or making funny faces. It all came to a head in the famous family meeting scene, where the Corleone were debating whether to go to war. During breaks, what looked like brotherly competition on screen was really just rivalry between them. Hollywood didn't know that they were competing with each other in real life, which almost ruined the magic they showed on screen. The most tense moment on The Godfather set happened when James Caan walked in with a smirk, while Robert Duvall was quietly talking with director Francis Ford Coppola about why Tom Hagen did what he did. He made a rude comment about overthinking the job of a glorified secretary. When Duvall thought back, that was the moment I decided we would never be friends. He said he made up his mind that day on. At all times, Tom Hagen would keep a close eye on Sonny, because that's what a calm, smart man like Hagen would do around a hot head like Sonny. That little thing made their relationship really spark. Most people are shocked by how well the two guys hid their fight. Duvall and Caan lied to everyone for decades. They smile at each other at reunions, laugh during interviews, and give off a family vibe on the red carpet. They did a great job with their parts both on and off screen. We both knew what was at stake when we were pushing the movie. Duvall said, we weren't going to let personal problems get in the way of something that important. So we smiled, told the right stories, and played our parts. For him, that was real acting, the kind that doesn't win Oscars but gets respect. Duvall's choice to protect the work, even though he felt deeply angry about it, says more about his character than any prize could. The other reason these fights didn't end is it was kept secret for a long time, buried under decades of staged love, red carpets, and picture ops. Duvall's fourth discovery, on the other hand, was about something much more personal than his problems with Brando and Caan. He made it sound like this one was personal and hit Hollywood right in the golden heart. Robert Redford was the fake behind the golden picture and the last name on Duvall's list. Even the words made people in Hollywood gasp. Redford was the perfect golden boy. He was the picture of class, intelligence, and honesty. For decades, no one could hurt him. He was a symbol of art and activism, and both fans and reviewers loved him. But Duvall said that clean image was just a mask that had been well polished. Redford made a great public image, Duvall said. The serious artist, the idealist, and the moral man. But the truth that I faced was something completely different. Duvall said there was a cold opportunist behind that sweet smile and calm voice. This person treated crew members like furniture and saw other players as obstacles. Their fight began while they were filming That Was in 1984. Duvall played Max Mercy, the cynical sports writer who starred opposite Redford as Roy Hobbs, the heroic baseball player. What started out as a friendly and easy way to work together quickly turned bad. Duvall started to notice how Redford was